Hey everybody, thank you for clicking on this video and allowing me to continue the conversation. And after looking at some of my comments underneath the previous video regarding homemade black powder and specific gravity, reading through the comments, I just kind of want to maybe address a couple of things. Nothing negative, but just maybe some things that you may not have thought about. And it really has a lot to do with not so much the gunpowder per se, but maybe some patch lubes and things like that. And before I get into this, welcome aboard to all the new subscribers. And I'm glad that you have found this channel and you have subscribed to it. I just kind of want to contextualize this with all my years of experience being a buckskinner. I started buckskinning. My first rendezvous was with the Bill Williams Buckskinners in 1994. And at that time, I got acquainted with a lot of the fellas that were part of the Powderhorn clan. And those guys were really period correct fellas, and I learned a lot from them. But at the same time, like a lot of you, I still have a subscription to Muzzleloader magazine, and I've never discontinued that since 1994, so I got a lot of back issues. But one of the things that a lot of us fall trap to, maybe, or fall snare to, is the romanticizing of some of those writers, Muzzleloader magazine. One such person way back then was Mark Baker. He did a lot of writing regarding his One Blanket track, and romanticized all of that. Romanticized his fire starting kit and all of this stuff. And through the course of that, we all gravitate towards what they're writing about, and then we experiment ourselves as to whether it's practical for you yourself to be emulating that. And in my case, a lot of it, I kind of shit-canned it. Some of the romance about the Mountain Man era are these big Bowie knives. Yeah, they look cool, but they're not practical for an everyday use, or even for a muzzleloader hunter that wants to hunt with a period theme. Okay, it's not practical. Believe me. you try cutting an elk or gutting an elk with a knife like that. Sure, it helps split the rib cage, but you can't do any fine work with it. That's experience speaking right there. But one of the things that back then, and I still see it today, a lot of guys like using these loading blocks with a pre-lubed patch. Now, I got away from these very long time ago for a couple of reasons. The number one reason is that when you have a pre-lubed ball and patch right here, and you got it on a lanyard and making it swing right here, a lot of that lube that should be going down your barrel is transferring onto your clothes. And you learn to recognize the grease transfer because as you walk around a camp, especially here in the Southwest where there's a lot of dust being kicked up, or you might even get a dust devil or two, your clothes get real dirty because that grease attracts that dust and the dirt and the grime. If you happen to trip and fall on the ground during a mountain man run and you don't take the time to inspect how much dirt and grease you picked up on this patch, once again, you could be driving it down your barrel. Do you really want to be doing that? Probably not. The other reason why I got rid of it and quit using it is during that same time frame, that same period, a lot of guys were gravitating toward coning their rifle barrels so that you could get rid of these from one aspect and get rid of the your short starter. Because coning your barrel, you don't need to use a short starter. You can actually start everything with your thumb. There became a very apparent problem with that almost right off the bat. With a greased patch, when you're going down the barrel and you hit that void that you have created by coning your barrel, well, everybody was beginning to realize that their accuracy went to hell. What the theory at the time is that the flame was coming around and consuming your patch, and it was throwing your ball off for however much you were actually, what you actually coned your barrel. And that very much was the problem that I experienced, because I coned the barrel of my Thompson Hawken, was using the grease patch, and then my accuracy went to hell, and then that's when I went to the spit patch, and that ended that problem. Because what you have to realize, a grease, even though it may be solidified with beeswax will burn. It will burn. That's why they tell you to put it in a double boiler so that it doesn't catch flame. Well, a lot of us began to realize that that's what was happening. So I went to a spit patch. Now I know I've read in the comments and I've experienced the same thing on the shooting range. A lot of you have a hard time getting enough saliva to use a spit patch, and I understand that. And early on, it took me a little bit of getting used to it too. But one of the guys that I rendezvoused with from the Powderhorn clan, the purist, said one of the simplest things to do is put, maybe a half a dozen or a dozen so between your cheek and your gum, and then swallow a little bit of water. Okay, now all of us on the shooting range should have access to some drinking water, and particularly here in the Southwest, every rendezvous that I've been to, somewhere on the shooting range, there is a container of water. So you just put this in your, between your cheek and your gum, swallow some water. Well, whether you recognize it or not, that water actually helps stimulate those spit glands, those saliva glands. And then for me, that was the cure to it. I never had a problem with that ever since. So I put a few spit patches here, pre-cut. Myself, I don't like taking that whole, that length of pillow ticking and walking around chewing on it and then cutting it off. Yeah, that's more period correct. I get that. I get that. So is loading out of your pouch, shooting a gun with a patch box. You may have several patches pre-greased right here as opposed to on a loading block, or you may have a little pile of grease right there that you can wipe your finger on it, transfer it to the patch, and then you're ready to go. Now, one of the other things that I read in a comment, or actually I saw this in a video real recently. If I can remember the video, I'll try to put a link into the description box for it. But what this gentleman was doing is that he was explaining that his grease patches were completely disintegrating coming out of his gun, which was a Thompson Renegade, if I remember correct, or one of those Thompson guns. And what he did to resolve that is he actually put a over the powder patch. And some of the guys that I rendezvoused with, the Powderhorn clan, did the same thing, and that's one of those things that I, over time, have completely forgotten about because I don't practice that because I've never found the need for it. But the concept behind that is you put a grease patch, you start it down your barrel, don't drive it all the way to the bottom, and then you put your greased patch with the round ball, and then you just drive both of them down to the bottom. So what this patch does is it protects this patch from maybe not getting as dirty, but certainly keeps the flame off of this patch, and you're less likely to burn through or to disintegrate this one patch. And I've never had a reason to try that, but I do know that that is out there. Now, something else too, the other reason why I like using a spit patch is because the spit patch, in my opinion, keeps the barrel cleaner. If you're using a greased patch, in my opinion, And I fully comprehend that the pre-lubed patch, the grease patch, helps keep the gunpowder, the fouling, soft. But think about this. Every time you take that grease patch, put a round ball on it, you're actually driving all of those contaminants, the fouling, on top of that powder charge, because somebody in the comment section made the comment that a spit patch is ruining or soaking through to the powder charge, and I could be losing some of my feet per second with a spit patch. But with a grease patch, you're actually doing the same thing, only now you're probably driving twice as much grease, because you're driving the grease that has attached itself to the fouling to keep it soft, plus the grease that's on your primary patch. So there's always pros and cons with all of this. So what you have to do is you have to experiment with this and find out what actually works best for you. And for me, in over 30 years, this doesn't work good for me. These big Bowie knives, yeah, we're not fighting an enemy in hand-to-hand combat anymore. Those things are impractical. In my opinion, having a loading block with pre-lubed patches, especially here in the Southwest, there's a great risk of attracting dirt and dust. Even some of the dirt and dust that might be on your clothing can be attracted to this. And you're also driving a certain amount of soft, moist, greased, moist fouling down your barrel on top of your present and current powder charge, which could be contaminating it more. I say could be contaminating it more than just a single spit patch. So anyhow, that's about all I wanted to express in this particular video. I hope that everybody will certainly stick around. Today we're under really bad heat advisory, so I'm not going to go out and do any shooting today through the chronograph, and also it's windy. That's what happens when it gets hot. All that heat from the Earth's floor rises, and it causes these swirls, and you guys should know how all that works. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining in. And if you have any, anything that you have experienced being a buckskinner, or maybe just learning about this and have questions, I will certainly do my best to help answer those. And if and when I do answer those, remember, my answers will come from experience. Once again, 1994. I've been to a lot of rendezvous since then. So I have a lot of experience to share regarding this. So anyhow, friends, I hope you will enjoy the rest of the day. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up, the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free to do. And do me a favor, share this with your bestest of buddies. So long for now.